Jonathan Hoag leaned forward in the chair, trying to see what was written on the slip of paper the doctor held.
Is it blood, Doctor?
Any particular reason why you should find blood under your fingernails?
No, not exactly. But it is blood, isn't it?
No, Ton. It isn't blood.
Hoag knew he should have felt relief. He did not.
What is it, Doctor? Tell me.
You asked me a specific question. I've answered it. You did not ask me what the substance was.
He tore the slip carefully in two, placed the pieces together and tore them again, and again.
Take your practice elsewhere. Never mind the fee. Get out, and don't come back.
He was afraid of rudeness, as some persons are afraid of snakes, or great heights, or small rooms. Bad manners left him sick and helpless and overcome with shame. The children seemed rat-faced and sharp and shallow. Their older sisters, gutter-wise too early, seemed concerned entirely with advertising their new sex. Even the babies in the carriages, snotty-nosed, sour-smelling, squalling. A room with a locked door between himself and everything else. He followed the bellman to 412, bolted the door, and sat in the armchair. He removed his gloves and stared at his nails. They were quite clean. He had been preoccupied. He had simply neglected to scrub his nails. He must have been in too much of a hurry. He told himself this, and went to sleep. In the morning he went home and resumed his usual routine. He had carefully scrubbed the nails of his left hand, and was just commencing on his right when he noticed what he was doing. The nails of his left hand were white and clean. Those of his right were dark and dirty. He checked his watch against the bedroom clock. 10 minutes past 6 in the evening. His usual time to return home. He might not recall his profession. His profession had certainly not forgotten him. The firm of Randall and Craig, Confidential Investigation, maintained its night phone in their double apartment. Convenient, as Randall had married Craig early in their association.
Shut up and handing a pencil. A character who wants to see you tonight. Jonathan Hoag. Claims it is a physical impossibility for him to come in the daytime. Got all mixed up when he tried to explain his business.
Gentleman or lug?
Gentleman. Key. Money. Talked. April 15th is coming up.
She counted off 30 seconds on her watch, then said, "Ready with Mr. Randall." He made the appointment for exactly 17 minutes past 8.
Mr. Randall, the whole business is preposterous.
Most businesses are. Woman trouble? Threatening letters?
Nothing as simple as that, I'm afraid.
Of what?
I don't know. I want you to find out what I do in the daytime. Noon. My recollection of any sort runs back about 5 years to the St. George Rest Home in Dubuque. New, incurable amnesia. That they found me a job. I was strongly advised never to worry about my work, never to let my mind dwell on the day's activities after hours. I tried to do that. I seem to have been successful, perhaps too successful.
Cynthia caught Teddy's eye. Post-hypnotic suggestion. That would account for it.
What would your attitude be if it should develop that my daytime life is scandalous? Worse than that, criminal. Beastly. Neil.
Teddy was a licensed investigator with obligations he wouldn't step around for any price. He said so flatly.
Then perhaps it is wiser to drop the matter now. Some things are better never known. Nim.
You've already hired us, Mr. Hoag.
I brought only 500. Is it enough?
He counted out the bills without removing his gloves. 10 bills, precisely arranged.
As a retainer.
When Hoag had gone, Cynthia dusted the arms of the chair. The polished surface showed in the gray powder a smooth, unbroken film. Not a ridge, not a smear, as though no hands had touched the arms at all. But she had watched his knuckles go white.
The man with no fingerprints.
45 minutes and several long-distance calls later, he set the receiver down.
There is no St. George rest home in Dubuque. There never was.
Teddy, that little man is evil.
I know. And I mean to find out why.
At 7 minutes before 9, Jonathan Hoag stepped from the Gotham apartments and turned left. He wore his bowler and gloves. He did not look around.
There he is.
I see him. Control yourself. You'd think you'd never tailed a man before.
Hoag took a bus. Teddy managed to board it with a traffic light change. Cynthia flagged a cab and rode alongside. Through the cab window, she watched Teddy cross the street. And then, right there on the sidewalk, 10 steps from the revolving door, there was Teddy, stopping. There was Hoag, stopping. They talked. Then both of them turned and walked into the building together. Cynthia waited in the lobby. The elevator indicator above the closed doors had not moved in 11 minutes. It sat between the 12 and the 14. Suite 1310, Detheridge and Company, manufacturing jewelers. Through a long glass partition, Teddy watched Hoag at a workbench. Smock on, loopy screwed in, polishing stones with easy professional hands. The brownish red residue on the wheel matched exactly what had been found under his nails. Juwelers Rouge. $500 to find out his client polished gems.
Easy money. The easiest 500 we ever promoted. He polishes gems.
Teddy, when you spoke to him outside the building, what did you say?
I didn't speak to him. I never laid eyes on him until he went through the door.
I was watching from across the street. You talked to him. Then both of you turned and went in together.
Sin. I did not.
Edward Randall, don't tell me what I saw with my own eyes.
They returned to the Acme building together, rode to the top and walked the stairs down. 12, 14, 18 steps between them, the same as every other flight. The management confirmed it. No Suite 1310. No Detheridge and Company. No jewelers. Not in this building. Not ever.
Someone hypnotized me.
That's what I think.
The question is why? If this is a trap, what kind of trap needs a private detective as bait? And I don't like having shenanigans put over on me.
From now on, for as long as this case runs, we do everything together. I don't want you out of my sight.
All right. I promise.
They went to the movies in the afternoon because neither of them wanted to sit in the office. He chose a triple feature Western. The hero seemed as villainous as the foreman. Cynthia watched the audience instead. In the intervals when the lights came up, she studied the faces around them. Discontent, the marks of pain, lonely unhappiness, and stupid meanness. No merry faces, or almost none.
When I was a little girl, I had a funny idea. I could see that most of the adults around me weren't happy. I got the idea that when you grew up, you found out something specific, that kept you from ever being happy again. I used to listen behind doors to try to hear what it was.
Born to be a detective.
I never found out. I used to be glad about that. That's what scares me about this Hoag business. I'm afraid that if we keep going, We really will find out what it is the grown-ups know. And then we'll never laugh again.
Be your age, kid. What you need is dinner.
She kept her hand on his arm until they were home. Hoag returned on Tuesday evening, exactly at 7. He set another $500 on the table before he sat down.
I have been remembering. Fragments. A smell. Very old stone. And something cold underneath it. Darkness. Primarily. Very old darkness with something active in it.
Pleasant memories?
Not pleasant. Not unpleasant in the ordinary sense. What troubles me is the substance. I think I work with something that exists at the edge of what should exist. When I feel the memory of holding it, whatever it is, my hand knows it. The hand has done this before, many times. Whatever I am good at it.
He set his hand flat on the armrest. Teddy watched him do it. Then he told Hoag about the 13th floor, the stair count, the building manager.
I expected something of the sort. Please continue.
He knows more than he's saying.
He knows he knows. He's afraid to find out what it is.
He turned from the window. I know the feeling. Yeesh. Neither of them slept well. He woke standing in the living room. Pajamas.d. 2:45. Cynthia's breathing came through the half-open bedroom door. He had no memory of walking here. His reflection was wearing a suit. A dark business suit, not his. The reflected Teddy stood perfectly still and looked back at him with an expression that was not Teddy's. The reflected hand reached forward through the surface of the mirror. It seemed natural to take it. The glass was cold on his wrist, and then not cold at all. The boardroom smelled of cold stone and something older underneath. 12 men in identical dark suits sat without moving. At the far end sat R. Jefferson Stolz, 300 pounds in an immaculate black suit, small merry eyes, and hands of impossible fineness placed flat on the table.
Mr. Randall, you must cease your activity. We have other plans for your client.
I've never welshed on a client.
We are not asking.
Stolz lifted one finger from the table. The paralysis settled in instantly. Nothing moving. Chest tight, eyes open. No pain. Just absolute stillness. He nodded at the wall. The mirror showed the Randall bedroom. Cynthia asleep, perfectly still, perfectly helpless.
You wouldn't want anything to happen to her.
He woke on the bedroom floor. Cynthia was in the bed, breathing softly. He lay very still, thinking about the temperature of the reflected hand when he took it. In the living room, a straight-backed wooden chair stood directly under the mirror, placed there with deliberate care.
I moved it there while straightening the frame.
He believed her. He wanted to. They tried again, this time differently, closer. Both of them walking near enough to Hoag to touch, watching his every movement with open attention, as if daring whatever had manufactured the 13th floor to do it again. Then he stayed on the bus past his stop, past the Acme building, past the usual corner, 2 stops further, and got off at theirs. He walked into their own building. They split. Teddy went right. Cynthia checked the far wing of the corridor. The corridor was empty. She turned back. Hoag was standing directly behind her. She reached for the gun. Her hand would not close around it. Something was wrong with the corridor. Something was wrong with Hoag. Taller than before, or wider, and his eyes were wrong. Not Hoag's eyes. not any eyes she recognized.
You wanted my fingerprints. You shall have them.
Something was wrong with her hands. She could feel the grip. The command was not getting through. She pressed back until there was no corridor left and screamed for Teddy. He was bending over her when she came to, on the floor, 2 inches from an open window with a 5-story drop on the other side.
I was watching him. He was at our office door, picking the lock. I saw him.
They both understood, without saying it, that both things had happened simultaneously in 2 places that could not simultaneously contain Hoag.
I know what I saw too.
I know.
In their office, lock untouched, door unforced, a fresh sheet of their own letterhead was already in the typewriter. Curiosity killed the cat. Not a smear, not a print. The keys had been pressed by hands that left no mark.
The blots are real.
Yes. And they know exactly who we are and where we live.
And whatever Hoag actually is, they're frightened of him.
Now that is the interesting part.
We're not dropping it.
No.
Dr. Potbury's practice was south of the university, in the kind of neighborhood that kept a GP busy without making him rich. When Teddy gave Hoag's name, Potbury went and locked the consulting room door.
Stay away from him. I'm telling you this as a physician who has seen the kind of damage that proceeds from involvement.
Tell us why.
There is no law in this world that touches the particular evil involved. No court, no professional body, no government agency. The thing you are investigating is not subject to the mechanisms by which this civilization manages its difficulties. You are decent people, and I am sorry for you.
He turned to the white wooden cabinet and mixed them each a drink, something that smelled like whiskey and had a bitter undertone that was not whiskey. He made it clear they should drink it. They drank it.
One question. What are the blots?
Potbury's face went very still. He looked at Teddy for 3 seconds.
Whatever story they tell about themselves, they are not old. They are not powerful. They are frightened. Remember that.
He closed the door. Cynthia felt dizzy all afternoon. Teddy had a headache he could not shake, one that moved when he pressed it, that seemed to come from behind his eyes rather than inside his skull. That evening, a mirror arrived. 2 delivery men in gray uniforms carried it up without being asked, already knowing the apartment number. Beveled glass, pale wood frame, perfectly clear. Prepaid. No sender on the receipt. The delivery men hung it over the mantel with professional efficiency and left before Teddy had finished asking his questions. It was a very good mirror. Perfectly clear, perfectly true. Looking into it was like looking through an open window into a room that happened to be identical to the one you were standing in.
Actually, I rather like it.
Sin. Come away from it.
No. Let me look at it for just a moment.
By 10 o'clock, she had fallen asleep in the armchair facing it. He watched her face in the glass. She did not look frightened. She looked comfortable. Teddy sat there watching the mirror until well past midnight. The mirror showed the room perfectly, correctly, without distortion. He did not trust perfectly correct things. Phipps came through the bedroom mirror at dawn. Cynthia was already gone, taken while Teddy slept beside her, taken so cleanly he had not stirred. He felt the cold air from the mirror's surface and woke to find the glass rippling still, like water after something has been dropped through. They tumbled Teddy through right after, feet first, undignified, and dumped him on the boardroom table beside her. Cynthia was already there, sitting up, completely composed, watching the board members with the expression she used on difficult witnesses. Her hand found his across the polished wood and pressed once, quickly.
This little scene is very touching, but there is a matter to attend to.
Phipps produced a small glass bottle from his briefcase, sealed with dark wax. One board member held Cynthia still. She did not flinch, she simply noted him. Phipps pressed the mouth of the bottle to her left nostril, then her right.
Teddy, they're pulling me here, Pa.
The hand in his went limp. Her eyes did not close. Her body was still upright, but the aliveness, the particular way her intelligence moved behind her face, had gone somewhere else entirely. What remained was her body, continuing to breathe, like a house with the electricity off. Phipps sealed the bottle with the wax. He woke on the bedroom floor. He could not wake her. He found her heartbeat by rolling a page into a paper tube and pressing it to her chest, putting his ear at the other end. Lubadub, lubadub, a live dart, present in the body, just not in any way he could reach. He called Potterbury. The doctor came, listened, said lethargic Agravis, keep her warm, and left his black bag under the bed. No prescriptions, no prognosis. Teddy sat beside her. He drank the rye and poured the rest down the drain. He ate soup and couldn't keep it. He phoned Hoag and said things he did not repeat afterward, then somehow let him come. On the second night, the mirrors started watching him. He was sure of it. A movement at the edge of vision, and when he turned, only his own face. He found the enamel in the kitchen drawer, red-black, half a pint. He painted the bedroom mirror first, the beautiful beveled glass they'd sent him. He covered it in thick, deliberate strokes until the surface was fully opaque. Then the hall, then the bath, every mirror in the apartment. Let them try now. He had been in the armchair since 4 in the morning with his gun on his knee. Every mirror in the apartment was covered with red-black enamel. He was watching the bedroom door. Potbury came in the morning and stood in the doorway looking at the painted mirrors.
The blots come through mirrors. I stopped them.
Potbury covered his face with his hands. It was enough. Teddy kicked him efficiently in the knee, took his bag, and locked him in the bathroom. He sat in the armchair with his gun at the bedroom door and waited. Hoag arrived at 9. He looked at the painted mirrors, then at Teddy's face.
If Potbury is one of them, and I believe he may be, then locking him in was exactly right.
A sound came from behind the bathroom door. Not knocking, not calling out. A slow, careful scraping, moving methodically from one edge of the surface to the other. The mirror above the sink had been scraped clean. Every stroke deliberate, precise, working from corner to corner. The enamel lay in clean curls on the tile floor. The razor lay on the sink edge. Potbury was gone. The bathroom had one window. It was painted shut and had not been opened in years. The door had been locked from the outside. Under the bed, Potbury's black medical bag. Inside, wrapped in a handkerchief, a small sealed prescription bottle. The label read, Mrs. Randall, take as prescribed. Teddy snapped the seal and held it to his own nose first. Something infinitely sweet. Not a perfume, not a smell you could keep for longer than the moment you were experiencing it. He turned. Cynthia's eyes were already fluttering.
Don't promise them anything, Teddy. The blots.
I know. They're being dealt with.
She came back slowly. He held her until she could sit up and drink water from the glass he had kept refilled beside the bed for 2 days. When she was steady, they tried the scopolamine. Hoag submitted without complaint, rolling up his sleeve himself.
What is your profession, Mr. Hoag?
Silence. A very long silence. The kind that builds until it has a texture. Then he threw off the drug like a man shrugging off a coat.
I recalled my profession. It is time to tell you. New, but not here. North of the city. Will you meet me?
He wrote a list on a sheet of their letterhead and gave it to Teddy. Groceries, unusual ones, preserved kumquats, guava jelly, fine tea, tea, muscat grapes if they could find them.
Groceries.
Please. I have something I want to do one last time.
They found everything. After some searching, they met him at a filling station outside Waukegan. He stood beside the pump, bowler on, gloves on, paper bag at his feet, with all the patience of someone who had never doubted they would come. North of the city there was a rise in the land, tree-topped, with the lake silver and still to the east and Chicago a soft haze to the south. Hoag spread the food on a blanket and sat down. He tried everything, tasting rather than eating, carefully, deliberately, like a man filing notes.
Once, there was a race unlike the human race. Their occupation and their reason for being was the creation of art. Not art as you know it, but something without limits. One member of this race, young, created a world. But the artist had been hasty. There were things in the creation that did not belong. Things that crept in the first rush of making. Instead of removing them, the artist painted over them, covered them up, and moved on.
Teddy thought of Stoles, of Phipps with his briefcase, of Podbury locking his door. They'd invented a sacred origin story for themselves, a mythology to explain what they were. They were a mistake, still wriggling under the paint.
Stoles and his people. They believed they were ancient, chosen.
They believed what frightened things always believe. When a creation is selected for judging, critics are sent. To judge a world properly, you must experience it from inside, from the beginning. So the critics became human, entirely, completely human, living full lives, not knowing what they were.
And you?
I am an art critic. Several things. Eating.
He ate the grape slowly.
A remarkable invention, turning the acquisition of energy into an art form, and sleeping, that strange recursion in which the artist's own creations dream their own worlds, and conversation between friends. But I had not found what I needed. Not until I was brought into contact with the two of you. Human love, the tragedy of human love. In all our race's creations, across all the worlds I have reviewed, I had never encountered anything like it. Your artist has real talent.
Tragedy?
Yes. What else could it be, my dear?
She turned and put her face against her husband's coat. He selected one more grape, ate it with great attention, and closed his eyes. He did not open them again.
Mr. Hoag?
Drive south. Keep the windows closed until you are well clear of the city.
Near the city, Cynthia lowered the window. Just a crack. Less than an inch. Through the glass. The sunny street, the cop at his corner, the boys at their game. Through the opening. Nothing. Gray, formless mist, slow and pulsing, where the city should have been. No sound, no movement, just the absence of everything that had been there. She rolled the window up. They drove south. Their house is not on the Gulf, but the water can be seen from the hill near it. The village is small and has no interest in them. They have no mirrors in the house. Not one. When they go to bed at night, before he turns out the light, he handcuffs one of his wrists to one of hers. They are still, as far as anyone can tell, very happy.